Hola y bienvenidos. Welcome to Mole Mama Cooking with Love. We drive connection, unity, acceptance, and love across all cultures and generations. I want to be very clear that all are welcome here, and we are delighted and grateful to have you listening. You're about to join us for our weekly adventure where we chat with entrepreneurs, chefs, foodies, artists, and nutritionists who are helping us to connect and learn. Please visit our YouTube channel where you can learn to make delicious guacamole, chimichangas, molcajetes de queso y chorizo fundido, crunchy tacos, enchiladas, flour tortillas, and so much more. And private message us if you need any help. We'd love to help you make those recipes successful. And please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. And from Mother Teresa, spread love everywhere you go and let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. And I think, given who's tonight's special guest is, you're going to listen and be very happy, especially if you run over to her Instagram. So I'm going to be speaking in just a moment to Yvette from Muy Bueno Cooking. So go to Instagram, check out her feed, and check out her website and all of her amazing recipes. But I'm just warning you, you're going to be hungry. It's just amazing Mexican food. So I have Yvette Marquez-Sharpnack here. And Yvette is an on-camera host, a home chef, and an Emmy-winning producer and writer, award-winning food blogger, and author of 2 cookbooks. She's written Muy Bueno, 3 Generations of Authentic Mexican Flavor, co-written with her mother Vangi and sister Veronica, published in 2012, and Latin Twist, Traditional and Modern Cocktails, co-written with Vianney from Sweet Life, published in 2015. She's a native Texan, born and raised in El Paso. She currently lives in the beautiful state of Colorado with her husband and 2 children. And on Muy Bueno, she shares delicious home-style Mexican recipes served with a heaping spoonful of heartwarming family stories. So with that, welcome, Yvette.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and be talking food.
Yes, talking food. My favorite topic in the world.
Exactly.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit about Muy Bueno Cooking and how you got it started? Why did you do it?
Yeah, it actually started out as a blog in 2010, but before that, I actually wanted to publish a cookbook. And when I say publish, I used to be a graphic designer, and my daughter is the one who actually gave me the idea and said we should write down these family recipes that we've been cooking. And that's when I realized that we, made these delicious recipes that I grew up eating and that my mom makes, that my grandma used to make, and just had these special memories. And I wanted to be able to preserve them, but realized we never wrote them down. So at the time, as I was a full-time graphic designer, I figured, I'll write a little cookbook for my family and give them as family gifts and do it on something like Shutterfly. And it was a friend of mine who suggested to start a blog. So that was in 2010 when I literally had never even heard the word blog. I didn't even know what a blog was. I literally Googled, what is a blog? and I was like, I could do that. I could design a pretty logo and, start this little blog and just share my journey of wanting to write a family cookbook. And so that's how it all started. And like I said, that was in 2010. Before I knew it, I was getting people who were reaching out and saying, when are you going to write this cookbook? And I was like, this is just like for my family. I didn't realize other people would be interested. And before I knew it, it just kept growing and other people wanted my cookbook. And I realized, okay, maybe this is something that I can pitch to a publisher and see if I can really have a traditionally published cookbook. And it just worked out. What was so amazing is a publisher that I reached out to was already looking at my blog, and it was a match made in heaven, and they were more than excited to publish our cookbook and that I co-wrote with my mom and my sister. And so it's Muy Bueno, 3 generations of Mexican recipes. And they're recipes from my grandma, recipes from my mom, and more modern Latin fusion recipes from me and my sister. And that was published in 2012. And now the blog is just turned into a business of its own. And I'm not a graphic designer anymore. I'm a full time food blogger.
That is outstanding. Congratulations. And
Thank
for
you.
it's fantastic. And for our listeners, if you haven't published a book, it's kind of a big deal to actually find somebody who wants to publish you. So that you found
Yes.
that easily, that is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. And what was great is that so it was like my baby, and anybody writing a cookbook, it's literally like giving birth. It's so time consuming, it's so painful, but in the end you fall in love with it, and it's just something that you want to show off to the world, and you're so proud of it. And of course your baby is the cutest baby compared to anybody else's baby. but being that I was so close to it, and being that I was a graphic designer, I really wanted to design the book. And so I was very hands on. I designed the cookbook. I was, styling all the photos, and so it truly is, my first baby, and it's something that I'm super proud of.
And you should be. That's just outstanding. It's so interesting that it generated from your daughter. Your daughter was your voice of wisdom saying,
Exactly. She always reminds me of that too.
So your photo. So now this makes a lot of sense because I look at your photos and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're beautiful, they're styled. How many people in her team? And just like because
Mm.
it's just amazing looking. So are you still styling your food and taking the photos, or do you have somebody else doing that for you now?
Now, my blog has transitioned in so many ways, but within blogging, I learned photography and learned to, take my own photos. But after I started growing, I realized there's certain things I'm great at and some things that I'm okay at, and I learned to delegate and get some help. So, it's very hard to, as you probably know, you're cooking, and then you pick up your camera and you're getting it dirty, and then you put it down, and then you style, and then you get it dirty again. Like I'm like kind of a germaphobe. And it's like I'd rather just cook and style and make it pretty and let somebody else come and take the photos. And I love it because it gives me more time to really decide how to style it and really plan that out. And then in the end, also, she provides me with all the edited photos. So again, I don't have to spend that time to decide, oh, I like this angle better, or I should have done this one, or it's nice to be able to get somebody else's artistic eye. And together we work really well. So as I've grown, I have a full-time photographer on my team. And yeah, and I do the cooking and the styling, and sometimes I also have an assistant who helps me with styling depending on the project. But yeah, it's definitely grown.
Okay, we're going to move on from this, but I just want to know one more thing. Do you
Hmm.
have somebody that helps you do all the dishes? Because that's one of the things that kills me. It's like you do all this cooking, like when I'm doing a YouTube video, and then I have this gigantic mess to clean when I'm done.
I so wish I had a magical dishwasher fairy.
Okay.
I do have an assistant who helps me, but not on every single shoot.
Okay.
So sometimes she's there helping me more with lifestyle styling, or staging a craft project or something like that. Sometimes she stays to be able to help me wash dishes, and sometimes she doesn't. It all depends on the day and the time. But yeah, that's definitely not the fun part because it's exhausting. There's times where I cook, anywhere from 4 to 8 meals in one day to have the photographer come and shoot, and then the dishes are left over, and that's no fun.
No fun. I agree. I want the dish fairy. So someday we'll
Hmm.
both have it. All right. So you talked earlier, because one of the reasons I'm so attracted to your brand is the stories. I'm all about I say every recipe has a story, and you talk about cooking with your mother and your grandmother. Do you have a specific memory of the first time that you ever cooked with one of them in the kitchen that you can share with our listeners?
Well, that's those are my memories. My mom was a single parent, and my grandma was like my second mom. And every day after school, I would go straight to grandma's house. And grandma would always make homemade flour tortillas every single day. And so those were my favorite memories, just going home and helping her in the kitchen. And she would always give me a little piece of dough, and I would, what was so funny is now as a mom, like that's my first thing I tell the kids, like wash your hands when you get in. My grandma, she didn't even, bother. I would get home, my hands were all dirty from being school all day, and she'd give me a little piece of dough, and I remember like rubbing it, making a little ball, and it turning brown from my dirty hands. And I would roll it and make a tiny little tortilla, and she would let me put it on the skillet on her comal, and I would cook it, and I would, watch it cook, and then I would eat it. It was all with my dirty little tortilla, but it was like the most precious and my favorite memories of going home after school every day and hanging out with grandma. And I would love to hear stories of her when she was a child. Like I would always ask her, you know, y dime cuando tú era una niña, grandma. Like, and she only spoke Spanish. So it was just, the stories of her living in Mexico and crossing to Texas. I just loved hearing those stories.
That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. My mother also made homemade flour tortillas for us every single day. Every
Wow.
single I know. I loved them. Oh my gosh. And that's my
Mm.
first memory of cooking is helping her make them. She made me wash my hands though, Yvette. but, but because I remember standing on a little box and because I couldn't reach the counter yet and putting my little hands in the dough and mixing it while she's pouring in the water. And then she put the manteca in and a little bit of salt. And I was just like, oh, this is the funnest thing on the planet. I get to mix stuff. So,
How
but,
cute. Yeah, she never let me play in the full dough. It was always
oh.
portioning out my little ball little ball of dough.
So, can you tell our listeners a little bit more about your cookbooks and where we can buy them?
Yes, so Muy Bueno is my full-on cookbook, and then Latin Twist is all cocktails. So it's all cocktails
Ooh.
from Latin America and Spain, and both cookbooks are available on Amazon. And they're also available at major bookstores, so Barnes and Nobles or places like that.
Okay, that's great. I think I'm gonna have to get your twist one for my hubby for Christmas. He's all about the margaritas.
Oh,
So,
fun. Yeah.
yeah.
And what's nice is I partnered with VNA, who's a food blogger at sweetlifebake.com. And, she is huge into margarita. So when we teamed up on this project, I said, we need to do a cookbook, not only of margaritas, but all other cocktails from Mexico and Latin America. So it was really fun to be able to venture out from our margarita comfort zone.
Yeah, so I've taught him how to make a paloma. Do you know what a paloma is? I'm
Oh,
sure you do.
yeah. It's one of my favorites, especially with mezcal.
Yes. And we've actually got him into my primas, or one of my primas in particular is quite the tequila connoisseur. So,
Mm,
so yeah, yeah, yeah. When you come visit, you'll have to check out our
I
tequila
know. I'll be
collection that
there.
we have. So, are you working on any other new cookbooks right now?
Maybe.
Okay, can't talk about it. All right. It's okay.
I mean, it's a long process. So, you know, it's if I mean that's the goal. I have so many ideas, but it's unfortunately something that takes a lot of time. And so I have ideas that I've been wanting to do. It's just a matter of really devoting the time to do it.
All right. So, can you share with our listeners what's one of your most popular recipes on your blog? Because I went through there and I was like, how many recipes? First of all, tell me, how many recipes do you have?
Well, that's what's fun. I just learned this myself because I'm going through the process of editing some of my blog posts, some of my recipes. And I'm kind of naive, unfortunately, when it comes to the back end or the technology side of my site. So I do have people who help me on, whether it comes to managing my site. So if anything were to go down, they're able to troubleshoot it, or, make simple design edits. So I have people who help me with that. But in this process of editing some of my recipes, they asked me, how many recipes do you have? And they showed me how to look. So I have over 800, like close to 900.
Wow.
So yeah, which is pretty crazy. So my goal is to publish, 2 to 3 recipes a week. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. So, it's on average from 1 to 3 new recipes a week. And as far as popular recipes, it truly depends on the season.
Oh,
So currently, I just posted a recipe for chile rellenos, which my mom was in town over the summer. And I said, okay, mom, while you're here, we need to film you making chile rellenos because for me, they're kind of intimidating. They're something that I really don't make because these are more of the deep fried ones. And I really don't cook deep fried very often. So when she visits, it's always a treat for her to make these. And she has a great story with it and a great memory that I have with them because as she was a single parent mom, she used to work at a garment factory and she used to sell chile relleno burritos during her lunch hour. So she would get up really early, make flour tortillas, make refried beans, be making chile rellenos like at 5 in the morning. And, I would always beg her to leave me a burrito for lunch. She's like, no, I got to sell them. But it was so nice because we captured a video of her making them and, she shared all her great stories in the video. And so right now that's one of my popular recipes on the blog.
I saw that picture too. They're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. So my mother
Thank
used
you.
to make them like your mother did, where you coat them in egg and then you fry them. But I don't do them that way because I'm with you. I'm too intimidated. One of my tias taught me how to make them just with crema, so I just make them that way. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have plenty other recipes that are, baked and or just roasted and filled. So, this classic deep fried one is definitely something that is, super decadent and, a good great special occasion dish.
now I also saw today you did your chorizo and papas with some eggs on top. Oh, that looks so good.
Thank you. I just published that one. That was in partnership with Nellie's Free Range Eggs. So now that, I have my blog, I also partner with different clients. And so I'm a brand ambassador for them and develop recipes with them. And it's great to partner with brands that I believe in. And, they're all about their free range eggs, which I always buy. And so that recipe was developed for them. And it's a classic on the typical, huevo con chorizo or papa con chorizo. But what I did is I cracked the eggs on top of the skillet of the cooked chorizo and the cooked potato and then baked it. And so it's so amazing because I love, over easy eggs. Um, and
Me
it's just a
too.
little bit of everything versus scrambling the eggs. It's just a great alternative.
Okay, so I have to ask you because I was just working with a food photographer. Did you break any of those eggs when you're putting them on there to put them in the oven? I'm like, okay, that picture is gorgeous. I was freaking out with my one egg that I had to do for my chilaquiles. How many did she have? Oh no.
No, luckily that was like, you had to make it work because there's no way. I mean, the skillet is already cooked. You already have your chorizo and your potatoes cooked. So you gotta make sure those eggs crack perfectly in there. So another tip that I like to do is sometimes I crack them separately in a little bowl, and then that way you flip the bowl in there, and then the whites don't spread as much. So that's another little food tip.
Okay, thank you for sharing that because I think my hands were shaking when I was putting my whole oh
Yeah, it could be scary.
very scary. Like, oh no.
Mhm.
And what are some of your favorite? I know it's seasonal, but do you have any desserts that are favorites?
Oh yeah, like I love empanadas. Like that's my all-time favorite Mexican desserts. I think just because they're not crazy sweet. I'm not much into super sweet desserts, and I love that you have, like a traditional pie buttery dough, but then you have the sweet filling inside and pumpkin. With the fall coming, it's like pumpkin empanadas are my favorite and always remind me of my grandma because after Halloween every year, she would come after my jack-o'-lantern. She's like, "You better not throw that away." That still has some meat in it, and I'm gonna make pumpkin empanadas.
That's fantastic. Yeah, empanadas are fabulous. I've never tried to make
Mm.
those though. Those are intimidating to me. Okay, maybe
They're
I need to
like
check my
you've
recipe.
made flour tortillas. All you have to do is do the same little rollout motion for your pastry dough.
Okay, all
It's
right.
super
And
easy.
my husband grew pumpkins, so I actually have three pumpkins downstairs on the counter that he keeps looking at me going, "When are you going to do something with these?" And I'm like,
Oh, cute. Well, on my in my book, I have the traditional pumpkin filling, which is, made from real pumpkin. But on my blog, I have a shortcut recipe of using canned pumpkin. So if you have the book, you gotta use the real pumpkin.
I do need to use the real pumpkin. My husband, I'm going to be in
Hmm.
trouble if I don't use them. Trust me. So
Exactly.
don't grow me anymore. And okay. All right. So, what has been like some of the biggest surprises that you've encountered by doing your blog, by doing my Muy Bueno cooking? What is
Well, I
things that you
think
didn't?
all of it, a lot of people go into blogging knowing that they want to turn it into a business. And when I started my blog, I didn't even know that was a possibility. I, like I said, started it as a journal of my journey of writing a cookbook. And as brands started approaching me, asking if I can partner with them and develop recipes with them, I was like, what? You mean you're going to pay me to cook? I'm already cooking. I can do that. And and so then I always been creative. And so knowing that I can share pretty photos, share my personal stories, and then sometimes making a creative video, it's fun to be able to do what I want in my style. As a graphic designer working in corporate America, that was the hardest part was to have style guides and brand guidelines and not be able to be super creative. And now to have my own business and to, have my own style and my own brand, it's just something that I love.
That's outstanding. And your logo is so cute. Oh, I love it.
Thank you. I have a really cool story on my blog about the evolution of my logo and why I, chose the corazon, the heart, and it's if you look closely, this little squiggly lines kind of look like eyes. And I always believe that things happen for a reason. And as I was working with the designer, which is funny because as a designer, I normally design everything, but I had all these ideas, and it's so hard when it's your own personal brand. And so I worked with the designer and I said, this is what I'm envisioning. It's not coming through. And so, I told her what I wanted. And when she drew out the corazon, as we were talking about it, it's like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. And, later was traveling and I collect those sacred hearts, like the Mexican wooden sacred hearts. And so I saw one and it was almost exactly the same, that turquoise wood with the flames on top. And I was like, okay, this is a sign. And and what's funny is the little symbols, it kind of looks like a face if you look at it, like it's eyes. And so when you see a traditional sacred heart, they have little charms, and they're like little silver charms all over the Mexican sacred hearts. And those charms symbolize different parts of your body. Sometimes there'll be a foot or an elbow or a hand. And if there's issues that you have, you're supposed to pray on those charms. And so they call them, milagros, like miracles. And so during this time, I was having my eyes checked because there was traces of glaucoma. And when I saw the heart with the eyes, I was like, this is a sign of that I'm supposed to pray, for my eyes. So it was just kind of crazy. So many little signs with a simple sacred heart that I didn't realize was going to turn into so much special meaning. But I wrote all about it on my blog. And so it's just, I'm corny like that when it comes to deep meaning or signs.
I think it's absolutely beautiful that you have the wisdom to see them. That's a gift because I
Thank
believe in
you.
science and I think we can miss them. So I think it's beautiful that you saw it, and the logo is gorgeous. It really is beautiful.
Thank
My
you.
background is also in digital marketing, so I work with a lot of designers. So I'm always logos are something that I'm always drawn to because I've seen many of them being developed, from the very beginning. So it's very nice. All right. So
Thank you.
now, what's been some of the challenges that you face? Because you've come a long way. There had to be some bumps.
There's always challenges. I mean, the number one thing I think is to do it all. It's full on business. There's, not only the cooking and developing recipes, the styling, washing dishes, and then the business itself. There's accounting, there's bookkeeping, there's taxes, there's, social media, there's filming, there's editing, there's so much to it that could get very overwhelming. But as my business has grown, I've been able to team up with great people and to delegate on the things that I'm not interested in. Now I have a business manager who's really great at helping me, which is so amazing because, now that I work with different clients or different brands, it's hard when it's so personal and to try and negotiate what you're worth or to try and pitch something to them. It could get overwhelming when you have other projects you need to do. So, it's great to have a business manager who can assist me with that. I hired a CPA, to help me with my bookkeeping and my accounting. I have a videographer. He comes and he, films my videos and edits them. So, there's definitely, it's definitely challenging if you do it all. And initially, I did do it all, and it was very overwhelming. But I was so passionate and so excited that I would stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning after I put my kids to bed and just work because I just loved it so much and it wasn't work for me. And but that it's very easy to get overwhelmed and burnt out. So I always recommend, if there's something that's not bringing you joy when you're in your business, and if there's a way for you to be able to delegate that, then I highly recommend it.
That's really good advice. I'm still at the point where I'm doing most of it by myself, so I can
Hmm.
completely relate. Yeah, but I think top of the list might be my dish fairy. That might be
Yeah.
first.
I know I have friends who would be more than willing to, help me do that, and they would do it gladly for for a meal. But I would not feel good about that. I would definitely, one day I hope that I can, have somebody who can help me all the time with dishes, because that alone is a big lifesaver.
So, so you have 800 recipes. Do you
Hmm.
have a favorite that you personally like? That's the one thing that I just love more than anything else.
Mm. I always go back to my mom's green enchiladas. She has these roasted green enchiladas that are out of this world. I mean, first of all, I could probably live off of enchiladas, but my grandma was famous for her red enchiladas, and my mom was famous for her green enchiladas. And my mom's green enchiladas are just so unique because traditionally or more often you see tomatillo based salsa, green enchiladas, but hers are made with either Hatch green chile or Anaheim roasted green chile and blended in a creamy suero, which is whey, or you can also use buttermilk. So super creamy and spicy sauce. And what she does is she stacks the corn tortilla. So instead of rolling the tortillas, she just stacks them like pancakes in between, you know, diced onion and, Munster cheese or just a good white cheese. And then drizzles them, or not drizzles them, soaks them in this great sauce. And oh, they're so, so amazing.
Okay, I have to go find that recipe. That sounds so delicious. Oh,
So delicious.
what part of Mexico is your family from? I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, what's funny is it's such a northern Mexico thing. So we always stack our enchiladas rather than rolling them. And it's very New Mexico style as well. So I grew up in El Paso, but my grandma was from Chihuahua, Mexico.
Okay.
So I think that influence came from northern Mexico as well as New Mexico. And it's something that's super popular both in El Paso and New Mexico.
That sounds delicious. So good. And I haven't had dinner yet, so thanks a lot, Yvette. I'm like,
I know. I
so
know. Now I
hungry.
got to make them.
They sound amazing.
And it's
So
perfect
I
because
know
it's perfect roasted, like hatch green chile season right now. So look for that recipe.
I'm going to. So I wanted to ask you one other thing. I happened to find a video link on your website where you're actually part of a panel with Michelle Obama a few years ago, talking, and it was like, I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Um, but you were talking about health for children, and it was just so lovely. And I was just wondering, with the last few minutes that we have, if you couldn't share a little bit about your thoughts around food for our children and so forth.
Yeah, first of all, that opportunity was amazing, and it's still my, you know, one amazing memory that I'll have forever, just to be able to meet Michelle Obama and to sit down and talk with her as moms. I think as moms, we're all interested in sharing the best way we can feed our children. And, growing up with my mom as a single parent, that was always top priority for her. And as I got older, my mom owned a grocery store that was my grandma's. And it was a small mom and pop grocery store, and so I worked there as a teenager, and I saw so many kids. I mean, where first of all, my mom still lives in the same neighborhood, in the barrio, in the lower valley of El Paso, where there's not a lot of money, and a lot of people are on a food stamp program. And since I was a teenager, seeing these kids coming in with food stamps and buying junk food, which would just break my heart. They're, buying chips or buying sodas and buying all these things that, it's so unhealthy, and there's a lot of obesity. in, unfortunately, in Latino children. And it's because there's not the education out there, or there's a lot of parents who are working all the time, and that's the kids don't know how to cook, and there's no options for them. So, I shared that with Michelle Obama just because that's such a huge, passion of mine to be able to teach families how they can cook, especially, so many people have misconceptions about Mexican food being unhealthy. And that's
Mhm.
not the case. There's so many ingredients, fresh ingredients that make real Mexican food. Not everything has to be tamales, gorditas, chile rellenos that are deep fried. There's so many variations of Mexican food. And and so that's what I love to share. I love to share the old classics, and there are some of those delicious recipes that are once in a while, but there's also the simple ingredients, tomatillos, avocados, chiles, all of those things that make amazing dishes that are super healthy for you. So it was just, that's, I also work with No Kid Hungry, and, partner with them in ways to be able to teach families and to teach kids how to cook for themselves and how to eat healthy meals.
That is so beautiful. That is just wonderful. And thank you for sharing that because when I found that link, I went, oh my goodness, that's just fantastic. So you're not just a chef telling family stories, there's a lot of passion in you about helping people eat better and helping families eat better and eating together. So it's absolutely a beautiful message.
Thank you. But I'm definitely not a chef. I'm self taught. I
Well,
didn't go
I
to any culinary
I
training.
know. You know what? In my mind, you're still a chef. You have 800 recipes, cookbooks. So,
Uh, Thank you. Yeah, definitely a home chef in my own
yes,
little world here.
yeah. Well, and but it sounds like they shared a lot of love with you when they were cooking with you. So that's beautiful.
Thank you.
So, no, I know I talk to a lot of chefs, and I have a lot of home chefs who are like, "We're not chefs," and I'm like, "Yes, you are." It's like, really? So anyway, that's just a Molly Mama thing.
Thanks.
But I know that we're almost out of time, and is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about how they can follow you or just anything at all?
Yeah, I would definitely love everybody to subscribe to my blog. It's muybuenocookbook.com. And I'm also on Instagram, which is Muy Bueno Cooking, as well as youtube.com/slash Muy Bueno Cooking. And I have so many videos as well. So you know i you know I am the one who replies to every single comment or question. So if anybody has any questions or they're stuck on a recipe, I will literally reply. And because that's the worst, and I feel like that's our job as a blogger, to really be there if somebody says, oh my gosh, I don't have canned tomatoes, what can I use instead, and I'm in the middle of this recipe. So if I see those type of comments pop up, I usually reply right away because I don't want them stuck or not having a successful experience making one of my recipes.
That's wonderful that you still do that yourself. That's amazing. Because even with my little YouTube channel, I get a lot of comments and a lot of questions, and I do the same thing. I respond, but wow, that you're still doing it. That's awesome. So if I
Thank you.
have trouble with my pumpkin empanadas, you might be hearing from me going, "What?"
Exactly. You call me, you text me, you message me, whatever it is.
Okay.
I'll be here.
All right. Well, Yvette, it was just an absolute joy to speak with you today. Thank you so much for sharing your remarkable, inspiring journey with us. I really appreciate your time. So,
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
and I hope to have you on our show again and continue to just shine ever so brightly. It's just so inspiring.
Thank you. That's super, super sweet. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So, I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. Remember to add the most important ingredient to every recipe you make, your love. And as my mama always said to me as we said our goodbyes, que Dios te bendiga. May God bless you. Thank you for tuning in to Molly Mama Cooking with Love.